What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. All right, moving on to our power rankings. So we have two teams dropping out this week. The Orlando Magic went 1-2 this week. They've lost 8 of their last 13 games, and they're 26th in offense over that span. So they're out of the power rankings for the time being. Also, the Dallas Mavericks. They went 1-2 this week, lost 7 of their last 11 games. In that span, it's weird. They're 25th in offense and 16th in defense over that span. But Kyrie Irving is back now. That should help them settle down. I played his first game last night, looked rusty, but with him coming back, that should help them get back on track offensively. Alrighty, number 10, the New Orleans Pelicans. They've won 7 of their last 10 games, culminating in a quality win over the Lakers on Sunday. They're top 5 in offense and defense over that span. Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and CJ McCollum are all averaging over 20 points per game very efficiently over that span. They're rebounding super well. They're 3rd in defensive rebound percentage over that span. And on defense, a couple of guys I want to shout out. Brandon Ingram is having a ridiculous stretch of off-ball defense, getting a ton of deflections and blocks and steals and blowing up plays. It's been a theme all season. Those of you guys who have been listening to the show have heard me talk about it, but recently it's gone even up a level. Brandon Ingram has the tools, kind of like we've talked about with Kevin Durant, to be an outstanding defensive player. It's just a question of commitment, and there have been stretches where he does and stretches where he doesn't. He's in a stretch where he has been doing it, and it's made them that much more formidable on defense. Jose Alvarado was a menace in that Lakers game as well. Just a literal wrecking ball, blowing things up. Not just the from behind steals, but also just attacking the basketball when it's in front of him in transition. He was having success there as well. Pelicans are playing some good ball right now. The first time on our power rankings at number 10. Number 9, the Indiana Pacers. They've won 4 in a row, all 4 wins against good teams. They went down to Houston and beat the Rockets in Houston. Not easy to do. They went into Chicago and beat a red-hot Bulls team. That's not easy to do. Then they beat the Knicks. The Knicks are a good team. And then they went into Milwaukee and beat the Bucks. Like we mentioned earlier, Tyrese Haliburton in his last 5 games, 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 16 assists with only 2 turnovers per game on 52% from the field and 40% from 3. And then I wanted to shout out TJ McConnell. He's just been such a good bench guard this year. Not just at the point of attack, offensively beating people off the dribble and making plays, but he's also been a very, very good point of attack defensive player and just an overall disruptor and energizer bunny that just continues the wave, the onslaught of what the Pacers bring as part of that Tyrese Haliburton experience. And then they even play the two of them together, and then they just start to pick you apart driving and kicking. I did a lot of Pacers talk earlier in the show for those of you guys who are watching the breakout clip, so make sure you check out the Pacers Bucks breakdown from earlier today. Number 8, the Denver Nuggets. They beat the Grizzlies and Hornets, but then they got demolished by the Thunder at home. Now, Aaron Gordon was out for that game because of the unfortunate dog bite that he suffered over Christmas. But as I've said frequently about the Nuggets, when it comes to their top 5, I trust them more than anyone else in the league. That's why they're my number 1 championship favorite at this point. But their vulnerability is a lack of depth. If you lose Aaron Gordon, you're nowhere near as physically imposing as you are with him. If you lose Michael Porter Jr., your weak side shooting craters, and suddenly it's a lot easier to throw multiple bodies at the Jokic-Murray 2-man game. No Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Now you have to play your point of attack defenders that are nowhere near as good offensively. Same issue. You can start to load up on the 2-man game. No Jamal Murray. There is no 2-man game. The offense becomes way easier to guard, or at least that you go to a much lower level 2-man game. So the point is, this is the best team in the league, but another great example, I've always said that 5-man grouping is the most perfect assembly of basketball talent that I can remember seeing in terms of reaching the value higher than the sum of their parts, right? And Jokic is the best player in the world, but each of those role players next to him is immaculately a perfect fit for what they need out of that position. And I thought the Thunder just destroying the Nuggets in Denver was a strong indicator of just how important Aaron Gordon is to this particular team. Number 7, the Sacramento Kings. They lost to the Blazers, but they beat the Hawks and Grizz. Easier stretch in their schedule, so I wanted to just take a second to shout out De'Aaron Fox. Doesn't get nearly enough credit for massively increasing his scoring volume while not dropping in efficiency. Went from 25 points per game last year to 30 this year while staying at 60% true shooting. And it's on the strength of him just turning into a dead-eye jump shooter. Not just that, but like a high-volume guy who's hunting those shots. Like there was a clip going around on Twitter the other day of De'Aaron Fox shooting like an early clock pull-up 30-footer, I think, against the Grizzlies. And it was in like the early first quarter, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, what is De'Aaron Fox doing? People don't realize he's just hunting jump shots now. He's attempting 10 threes per game over his last 11 games and hitting them at a 45% clip. Like not just off the catch either. In that span, 6 pull-up threes a game, 6 of them, and he's making them at a 41% clip. This guy was already a star based on his ability to beat people off the dribble, to make that floater, some of the mid-range pull-up jump shooting, and the finishing at the rim. If this dude is now just like a dead-eye pull-up three-point shooter, like now we're talking about a guy that can enter into the realm of top tier superstardom. He is a capable, if not excellent, point of attack defender when he's locked in. This is a dude I've seen in the postseason. No one can keep him in front off the dribble. Now he's adding not just a good jump shot, but one of the most effective jump shots in the league this year. He's up over 1.1 points per shot attempt in both catch and shoots and pull-up jump shots this year. This is incredibly high-level shooting paired with one of the best downhill athletes in the league. So shout out to De'Aaron Fox, like legitimately one of the most improved players in the league this year. Number 6, the Philadelphia 76ers. They beat the Magic Rockets and lost to the Bulls, but Embiid's been out. But it looks like Joel Embiid will be returning tonight against the Bulls again. Tyrese Maxey's efficiency's tanked a little bit, but he's still scoring at a high volume. Number 5, the Milwaukee Bucks. They beat the Nets and the Cavs, but lost to the Pacers. Giannis continues to obliterate everyone, but Dame has cooled way off again. In the last 6 games, 22 points per game, 39% from the field and 33% from three. As I mentioned in the Pacers-Bucks breakdown earlier in today's show, I don't think their defense is going to be very good, and so they need to find a way to get Dame into a groove, a consistent groove offensively. Number 4, the Los Angeles Clippers. Kawhi Leonard is back, and they are back to winning. They have an undefeated week, capped off with an impressive handling of the Miami Heat yesterday. 17-5 since November 16th, which is the second best record in the league, second to the Celtics over that span. The offense has come around. Remember I was talking about early, like, even when they were winning, I was like, watch out. Their offense hasn't even really gotten going. Well, they're 3rd in offense over their last 10 games, 7th in offense since November 16th in that 17-5 stretch. James Harden is the guy I wanted to shout out here. What I said before the trade, and this is something I feel very strongly about, James Harden has limitations when we get to the postseason, and they're real. Can't finish at the rim, doesn't make enough pull-up threes to be a super efficient scorer, really inefficient in his impact on a night-to-night basis, bad defensive player, right? But he is still one of the very best regular season innings eaters in the league, and there is real value in there. 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 10 assists per game since November 16th. 47% from the field, 45% from three, and 2.6 stocks per game. Excellent basketball from James Harden, especially helping to float the ship while Kawhi Leonard has been out. Number 3, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're starting to drop some games in this intense stretch of their schedule. They're 7-4 in their last 11, but all the losses are in really tough games. At New Orleans, tough place to win. At Philly, tough place to win. At Oklahoma City, tough place to win. In Madison Square Garden, tough place to win. I actually think, all things considered, we knew this stretch was really tough, but I think they've held up pretty well. Like I talked about earlier, when right before this actual stretch of their schedule, I was saying don't expect them to go undefeated, but if you're comfortably over 500 in that stretch, it's a really strong indicator of a championship threat. I thought they've demonstrated it to that point. Main concern, though, is just their half-court offense. They only score 0.99 points per half-court possession, or 0.985, points per half-court possession. That ranks 18th in the NBA. I would like to see them get that up over 100. That, to me, is kind of like a prerequisite to be able to score in the playoffs. That's my main concern for them at this point. You've seen it before. Like, teams just compact the paint on them and force them into taking jump shots. And, like, when Ant's making all of his pull-up jump shots, it looks good, but they can get into some ruts offensively. But holding up pretty well over a tough schedule. Number 2, Oklahoma City Thunder. Undefeated week with all quality wins. They beat the Knicks, the Nets, and went into Denver and smacked the Nuggets, so we've moved them all the way up to number 2. They have won 7 of their last 8 games. They beat the Nuggets twice in that span. They beat the Timberwolves. They beat the Clippers. They beat the Knicks, playing excellent basketball. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's playing like an MVP, 32, 6, and 6 on 55% shooting over that span, over that 8-game span. Chet, last 8 games, 20 points per game, 59% shooting and 47% from 3. The dude is exploding. I think he's a superstar in the making. I think he has the potential to be one of the best players in the league one day. And Jalen Williams just quietly putting up 20 points per game on 57% from the field and 52% from 3. This team has a super, super bright future. 123 offensive rating over the last 8 games. Number 1 in half-court offense for the season, according to Cleaning the Glass. Number 3 in half-court defense. Number 1, where they always have been, or for the most part this year, the Boston Celtics. They've had a really weak schedule this week, but they handled their business. They beat the Pistons, the Raptors, and the Spurs. The Celtics have played a much tougher schedule to this point than both Philly and Milwaukee. And despite that, they're 2.5 games up on the Bucks and 4 games up on the Sixers. They have the 5th easiest remaining schedule. So get ready for a lot more weeks like this. And look for the Celtics to run away with the number 1 overall seed. As I said before the season, I think you're going to see a hefty gap between them and everybody else by the time we get to the end. The only reason it's looked as close as it has is the Celtics have had a very front-loaded schedule when it comes to the tougher games, and their peers, the Sixers and the Bucks, have played 2 of the easiest schedules in the league. Fueled in large part because the bottom of the Eastern Conference is super weak, but Boston gets to take the benefit of that down the stretch. So look for Boston to run away in the standings for the rest of the year.